Again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. No, hello. Here we are again with HFLE for all the week. And today, we are going to be looking at COVID-19 again. But this time, we're going to be looking at it with your feelings. That's right. How do you feel about this whole thing? You know, in HFLE classes, we're always talking about emotions and how we feel and things like that. And with my other two colleagues here from the Barbados Association of Guidance Counsellors, we've got with us Chanel. You can introduce
Hi.
yourself.
Yes, I'm Chanel Bell Alexander.
And we have right next to her,
I'm Margaret Grant.
right. And those of you who know these two counselors would know what schools they come from. And I am Untitled Cox, and you know what school I come from. Those of you who are out there from, you know, the school in Pilot Road, right? So today, we're going to be looking at feelings. Now, this pandemic has caused a lot of disruption all over the world, including Barbados. And one of the major things that has been disrupted is how we live our lives from day to day. And it comes with some ways of making us react. So let's take a look at some of the different types of reactions that a lot of you have told us you are experiencing right now. So, you know, Chanel and Margaret, feel free to jump in, but I'm going to start. One of the emotions that a lot of people are telling me about is that feeling of anxiety. They're not sure what's going to happen next. A lot of people are saying that they don't like being housed up, you know, because they have to stay in one place for so long. They're normally used to leaving the house and going to school or going with friends or going to play sports or going to visit relatives. And now they really can't. And the only time that they really get a chance to leave the house is to do certain things on certain days. Go to the supermarket or the markets, to go to the pharmacy. So they feel as though their lives have been abruptly stopped and everything has changed. And people do not like change. So a lot of my students, a lot of the young people that I interact with, they're anxious. They feel as though, and how do they experience this anxiety? Sometimes their heart races because they just want to go. Sometimes their heads throb because they just want to go. They feel on the verge of trying to escape. And others are anxious in a different way. They are anxious because they feel that the slightest thing that they do, if they don't follow all the rules, somebody in their house will get sick. So they're constantly washing their hands. Sometimes some of them are washing their hands so often that it's causing their skin to be dried out because they're not moisturizing. So that's another thing. When you wash your hands that often, try and use a little moisturizer because you don't want to keep washing off all of the oils that are protecting your skin, right? So sometimes I feel anxious in that way. And I'm not quite sure if, you know, Margaret and Chanel also have young people and students who are telling them about anxiety as well. But a lot of my people are telling me that they have that feeling of anxiety.
Yes, that is one way that you can describe the stress that persons are going through. But then some also say that they are sad or they're depressed. And I know they're probably using the word depressed, you know, loosely. But that is concerning as well because while at the beginning when they heard that school might not start back, there was a measure of excitement. They were glad to be home and working from the comforts of their home. After a while, and you've been in isolation and you're away from your friends, a bit of sadness kind of sets in. And it began with persons saying, yes, they were bored and they didn't have much to do, and then they were tired of playing their games. But now it is almost like they have lost the motivation now to get started back into school. They sleep a lot longer, so they don't feel to get up and, you know, bathe and to get themselves active. So
can
that
I-
measure of sadness.
Can I jump in here one
Yeah,
second
sure.
about the sleep? All right. A lot of people are sleeping longer in the morning, but they're also not sleeping properly in the nighttime. They're either going to bed very, very late, or they're waking up several times during the night. So when morning comes, they do not have that energy to do anything.
Yeah, that is true, because I know sometimes my children be tossing and turning and saying that they can't get to sleep. And it might be because, the games that they're playing, but even sometimes when you turn the gadgets off, that inability to sleep is sometimes there. So children are suffering with that sadness and that lack of motivation.
Added to that, I would say that many children are experiencing loss. When we think of loss in the sense that they are not able to socialize with their friends as they would normally like to. Teenagers, as we all know, love to socialize. Socialization is part of their life, and a huge part of their life. And you will find that they would tend to more be peer-oriented than parent-oriented. So now is a time when they have to be with their parents 24/7. And this is probably the first time in a long time that they have been housed up with their parents 24/7. Now, the fact that they're not with their friends, that they've missed school, they've missed the fact that they can socialize, they can do things that they like together, they can talk, they can crack jokes, and just be there for each other. So many times I find that many of our children are missing their friends. And this is one of the things that they have to recognize too, that school serves a role more than just for the academics, but school plays a huge role in terms of developing their social skills. So right now, many of them are experiencing loss, and as a result of that, they become anxious. When will this end? And will it get better? And the anxiety then spurs off, because you find out the emotions now are moving. They're more or less like rolling into each other. So really and truly, it's not a situation where they can actually like pinpoint, in some cases where they can pinpoint the emotion, but they're experiencing so many emotions at one time that for some of them, it leads them to be very, very frustrated, and it can become very pessimistic. But
Margaret, and we talk about loss for children, but there's also loss for adults, because a lot of adults, they like being active.
Correct.
Whether they're going out with friends, they're going out partying, whatever they're doing. And to have your movements restricted has significantly impacted a lot of people, all of us. And when you were speaking about loss there for children, I thought about people that are active in sports. I know I'm accustomed, my son is very active in basketball. And you're going out to games and playing, and the tournaments were in full swing. And then that all came to an abrupt end. So athletes, you have to look at that, who did not get the opportunity to have their inter-school sports. They too had to deal with a loss. So the loss is broad, and
but
children
then
are facing that.
Then also we have the parents. Some parents have lost their jobs. And it's like, what am I going to do after COVID-19? There's no hope for some people, not a ray of hope for some people. And therefore, as parents have to deal with the whole fact that they have lost their jobs, no ready income coming in. Then to deal with the children, in some cases they cannot even cope with the amount of food, because some children may seem as though they have stomachs that have no bottoms, and therefore you will find that it creates a lot of challenges within the household. So within this household now, you might find, within some households, you might find that all of these emotions are being put in one big pot. And therefore there's anger, there's frustration, there's sadness, there's
fear,
there's anxiety, and there's loss. So how do we really help these children? How do we really help these families cope with all of these emotions
but I want to add
really
to that too.
affecting them?
But I want to add to that too. When you talked about adolescents and our students essentially who are going through this whole learning about developing social skills. They're at this time of their lives is when they're now learning about, having a special friend, a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And for a lot of them, the only time they would have seen these people would have been at school during the day. And sometimes teenagers, and we're not talking about y'all behind your backs, we're talking to you to your face. Everything has to happen for you now. So if you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend today, for the next 2 weeks, that is all you can think about. That is your whole world until the other person comes along, and then for the next 2 or 3 weeks, they are your whole world. Well, when school ended, for some of you, you may have started relationships that week. So your world now has gone into flux because you can't see the person. You may be hearing them, you may not be hearing them, and you don't know why. You can't sneak out to go and find anybody and see them. You can't see them in a bus stand because you're not supposed to leave your house. Where are you going to go? So for a lot of you students out there, the loss, the frustration, the anxiety is real, especially when it comes to not being able to interact with your friends, your special friends, and now you have to change to interact with just those people at home. People that, for a lot of you, you are now getting to really know who they are again because you haven't spent that much time with them in years.
But you know something, I also want to look at those children who would have been preparing for CCSLC, CSAT, CAPE, and for these, loss again can be experienced where they have worked so hard towards these exams. They have seen the end result where they have been working towards a grade 1 mastery, straight A profile. They would have applied to maybe universities. They might have been looking at being promoted to the next year level, doing extremely well in term 3 so they can be promoted. And therefore, now, COVID-19 has stepped in. It has prevented them now from even progressing as rapidly as they would like. And for some of them, to them, it's the end of the world. But I would like to assure them, it is not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. You might have lost the opportunity to go to school. Yeah, for some children, they see that as a loss because they miss going to school. Some students might see school as a prison, but now they get to realize school is not the prison, right? It is what you do with what your experiences. And therefore, for children who might be thinking about, who might be experiencing loss at this time, anger and frustration, we are going to show you some ways in which you can actually flip the switch and therefore see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank
because
you so
this
much.
too will pass.
Exactly. And I'm glad that Margaret got us into this section now because first thing we want you to know is that all of these emotions that we discussed, although some people say that they are negative, they are natural. So that's the first thing we want you to understand. A lot of what you're going through right now is a natural reaction to a traumatic, unexpected, life-changing event. Okay? So it's natural. Now, because it is natural and you can cope with it, as Marcus said, we're going to show you how to see the light at the end of this tunnel because there are so many great things that will happen, that are happening right now, and that will happen at the end of this particular event. But you know what? You've got to be prepared for it. So hopefully over the next few minutes, you're going to learn some ways that you can prepare to put yourself in another place with your emotions and help you to get a handle on these emotions that you're having as reactions to what's going on around you. Now, before I started first, so I'm going to throw it back over now to Chanel or Margaret, and I will pick up from where you're saying, so I can jump in later on as well.
Yeah, for me, Donna, I know sometimes it is, easy to focus on the negatives, but it's all about perspective. And so you need to change your perspective. Try to focus on the positive things, because for some persons, especially with the online teaching, they may not have been technologically savvy. IT may not have been their thing, how to work the computer, how to upload assignments, those sort of things. But I changed my perspective, and I was saying, okay, so coming out of COVID-19, how can I benefit? And I kind of indulged myself in some self-learning. I tried to explore the whole aspect of the Google Classroom and G Suite. And I told myself, you know what, when this is over, I am going to be so good technologically wise, and that's what I focused on. And so for children who may be scared about the online learning, a little hesitant, how is this going to work? Think about perspective. Set yourself a goal. Coming out of COVID-19, what skills can I acquire? How can I improve myself? Mm-hmm. And I find that's a good way to start dealing with some of the stress that COVID-19 may bring.
Can I jump in here?
Of course.
I like to jump. One thing I have found, especially with the online presence, is beforehand, a lot of people were quite scared to use their cameras, because when you go on either the Meets or the Suites or the Zooms or the Rooms, when you have your camera on you, people can see your background. And a lot of people might not want to show what their background is. But I have discovered something called virtual backgrounds in certain programs. And all you need is a green screen. Now, when people hear green screen, the first thing I think of, oh, that's a lot of money. Hello. If you have a green towel, if you have a green piece of cloth, if you have a green piece of cardboard, and you can put it behind where you are going to be, and you bring in your camera close, you have a green screen. And then you can put any picture you want behind there. So nobody have to really see inside. So don't be afraid of the technology. That's my jump.
Okay. I will take over from where Donna has left off, because one of the things too, before we can move forward, before you can move forward, you have to recognize what you're feeling. And I always say, if you can name it, you can tame it. Yes. So first of all, recognize what you're feeling. Ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? Be able to identify why you're feeling like that, and then we can move forward, okay? Because if you're in denial, you're going to be stuck. So recognize your feeling and be honest with yourself. Do not feel guilty. Do not beat up yourself. We have all been, the thing is, we have all been plunged into this uncharted waters. So many of us, we are all swimming together, and we are going to come out stronger. So once you recognize the feeling that you're experiencing, the emotion that you're experiencing, you're going to deal with it now. Now, if it's loss, now, what can you do? You cannot change what has happened, but you can change the situation right now, and you can also prepare for a better future. So with what you have right now, you're going to look at how can I make things better? When we have set up the Google Classroom, now every child, all of you should really take advantage of this, because it's an opportunity not only to get on with the academic work, do some review from terms 1 and term 2, but it's also an opportunity now to meet your friends in the virtual classroom. And when you go into that virtual classroom and you switch on the video, even if it's at the beginning or at the end of the class, you're able to see each other, hear each other's voice, and that brings a lot of excitement, okay? And that is one you can do. You can also set up Google Meets. You can use Google Meet to set up some virtual groups. So you can just have a time now where you can decide, you know, we're going to discuss a topic tonight. It could be a study group, or it could just be a time when you come together and discuss anything that is happening, or you just want to have a virtual line. So you can actually have a virtual line where you can actually, just chill out. Then groups, there's some children who belong to different groups in school, extracurricular activities. All of those clubs and groups, you can form a group, you can have a meeting, a virtual meeting, and you can still come together. So all the clubs and groups, you can actually decide on the same day when you normally would meet, you can have a virtual meeting at that time. And this is where now relationships can still go on. So life does not have to come to a standstill. COVID-19 does not have to bring your life into a dry, morbid state. But you know what? You're going to take advantage. You're going to take advantage and you're going to move on. So one, you're going to do all those things. For those children who are thinking that they were looking forward to graduation, well, I think that the graduation committee could meet and you can look at how you can do some things virtually. You can probably look at having a virtual graduation ceremony and then maybe 6 months later have an actual face-to-face ceremony. But you can have something virtually. You can start putting together pictures, photos from the year group. Start putting them together, start doing things together. And I also want to encourage persons to dig into their creativity. Let your creative juices flow. And you will find that you can do so many things. This is your opportunity to dig into yourself and be as creative and innovative as possible. Do not sit down and be like, sulky Sarah all day long. No.
Yeah.
Get up. Find something to do. I'm sure you can find some okra seeds. You can find some pea seeds. You can find some peas, not pea seeds.
I want to know where you're getting pea seeds from.
So you can find some seeds there, and you can start to put them in some soil, and over a number of weeks, you'll be able to see those plants coming up and eventually have them on the table. So you move from the garden to the table, from the table to your stomach. And this is where you'll be actually starting you can even start, this will start to lower the vegetable bill in the household. Okay? Right. So I just want to say something also to students who might be looking at studying abroad, or they might have been accepted at a university or college or the SJP here in Barbados. Yes, and I want you to start looking at this as an opportunity now to learn as much as possible about these institutions. Go online, learn as much as possible. There are some universities that are actually offering virtual tours. So just go online, look for the university or the institution, and you can actually find out when they're having virtual tours, and you can tour. There are some zoos that are museums that are allowing virtual tours as well. So you do not have to sit down home and slump. You can actually do word search puzzles, create them, and have fun at home.
Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Because right now, we are crunched for time. And all of those are some fantastic ways that you could, as you said, tame those feelings, take control. Now, again, food for thought. I want to leave you with a challenge. Find a creative way to express some of those feelings that you have. Maybe just pick one, a feeling that you have that's very intense, and express it creatively. And we want to see your creation. You could either draw a picture of it, do a poem or a song, and I love to get those. So you can upload those more than likely to your guidance counselors board, to the class when you're having the class with them. Or we're going to give you an email address that you can send them to if you do not happen to have a teacher within the same system that we are in. So for the next 30 seconds, I'm going to offer Margaret and Chanel a time to just wrap up, give you 10 seconds of their little food for thought for their takeaway and your takeaway, and then we're going to end. Margaret?
The first thing
Chanel.
I want students to know is that stress is normal. COVID-19 is something that came on us abruptly, and there will be emotions that you are going to experience, and that is okay. What you need to do now is to identify what your triggers are. If you know listening too much to the media it's going to cause you anxiety, it's going to cause you fear, it's going to push you into depression, then you need to limit the amount of exposure that you have. Once you know your triggers and you avoid those, then there's so much that you can do. Margaret identified some of them. For some of you, it may be exercising, it may be breathing techniques, it may be going out and doing something in the garden, it is taking up a hobby, whatever it is. It's all about perspective. Try to learn something new coming out of COVID-19. Try to take care of yourself and eat healthy. But whatever you do, just make sure to manage your stress. Margaret?
Yes. Now, and finally, I would like to just say that know what you're feeling. Know yourself. If you know yourself and you know what you're feeling and you can name it, you can then find a way to manage it. It's about being able to regulate your feelings, because if you can manage your own feelings, if you are aware of your own feelings, then it will help you to understand the feelings and the emotions that other people are going through, okay? So emotions are normal. They're normal. There's nothing bad about emotions, but it's what we do with the emotions, how we respond to the emotions that makes the difference. So students, I want you to really examine yourself, recognize that as long as you're feeling an emotion, you are normal. You are normal.
And with that, I want to leave you with my 2 cents. This is just 2 cents. A feeling, da 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 da. A feeling, and that's normal. So, from all of us, we're here because we care, and we just want to say, this is your class. This is HFLE for all the week. Thank you. See you again soon. Bye.